industry insiders. They are descending on Los Angeles this week for the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3. They just relish the opportunity to get their hands on the year's latest video games and to give them a try.
Jeff Keighley took over the helm of the Summer Game announcement season in 2020, taking over for E3 and introducing Summer Game Fest. Now that we're 3 years removed from that, Jeff Keighley still seems intent on keeping his iron grip on pretty much every major game announcement event of the year. In the past few weeks, I found myself watching every single event during Summer Game Fest and discovering over 150 games that caught my attention. From that extensive list, I carefully curated it down to 40 games that I truly think deserve the spotlight. While I will briefly touch on a few major blockbuster titles, I want to emphasize that at least 75% of these games that are featured in this video are smaller projects that I believe deserve greater recognition. Furthermore, I purposely randomized the order of these games in this list just to kind of spread the real bangers throughout the video evenly. I have a lot of things to cover in a short amount of time, so I guess I'll just get the biggest, most obvious one out of the way first. The initial two of these Sony Spider-Man games are a couple of my favorite games. I love the flowing and dynamic traversal mechanics of those games, and now with the inclusion of the web wings in the sequel here, it seems like the fluidity and exhilaration of web slinging is going to be better than ever. Ultros immediately caught my attention during Sony's showcase and secured a prominent spot on my wishlist. It's a mesmerizing Metroidvania game that boasts a captivating psychedelic black light aesthetic, and I think that looks super cool. Sandland is an adaptation of an Akira Toriyama manga that has always piqued my interest. As an admirer of Toriyama's art style, but someone who really couldn't fully connect with the shonen action of Dragon Ball, I've always been on the lookout for an entry point into one of his imaginative worlds. With Sandland, I hope I finally found my gateway that I've been looking for. Baby Steps comes to us from the somewhat notorious developer Bennett Foddy, who developed QWOP and Getting Over It. It seems to embrace the walking sim concept to its absolute fullest and the most literal interpretation possible. You play as a basement-dwelling neckbeard venturing out beyond their comfort zone, and you clumsily explore vast landscapes, and it looks pretty funny. Whether you find joy in watching other people's struggles on streams, or you play the game firsthand, Baby Steps guarantees to be a roller coaster of laughter and frustration. At first glance, My Friendly Neighborhood seemed to be another cheap cash grab riding the wave of kid-friendly horror popularity. However, the new footage showcased during Summer Game Fest sparked a renewed interest in me. Surprisingly, it appears to be more in-depth than I anticipated. It features combat, an inventory system, and proudly labels itself as a survival horror game. I genuinely hope that it can live up to the expectations that using that genre thrusts upon your game. From the initial gameplay footage showcased, Demon Spore may seem a little bit lacking, but there's an undeniable captivation I have with the way that the titular Spore mutates and spreads across the ground. I think the way that it's deformable and destructible is really cool. I just hope that the developers can mold the rest of the game's structure into something more compelling than just what you see in the trailer. Alright, here's another massive game. Literally, I guess, at this point, because it's Ubisoft Massive making it. But Star Wars Outlaws is Ubisoft's venture into the Star Wars universe, following the end of EA's exclusivity deal. The concept of an open-world Star Wars game sounds like an obvious slam dunk. However, as I watch the gameplay, I can't help but see it as Watch Dogs with a Star Wars coat of paint. Nevertheless, I hope that they can transform this into something more unique and prove all my fears wrong. Here's to hoping that this could be the Star Wars open-world game that I've always wanted. Liza P was always a weird, oh, they're making a steampunk Bloodborne clone where you play as a legally actionable Timothée Chalamet Pinocchio. But the demo came out and it's shockingly competent. pretty damn close to From Software level of competence. This game's shaping up to be one of the greatest zero to hero stories ever. This game only counts for this list because it appeared in an Xbox Game Pass montage video, but Harold Halibut looks to be incredible. It's an adventure game that uses a super authentic stop-motion aesthetic. I just hope that the game can actually live up to how incredible this game looks. Remember that Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake that they banished into the Shadow Realm? Yeah, don't. Forget about that. Prince of Persia is now a Metroidvania, and it looks like it kicks ass. I think it's really cool to see someone other than Nintendo making a bigger scale Metroidvania with the budget of a AAA studio, and I sure hope this one turns out as good as it looks. The Last Faith is yet another game that wants to evoke Bloodborne, but this time it's as a 2D Metroidvania. It's sort of funny because Bloodborne itself is clearly From's attempt at making something similar to Castlevania, and this just brings it full circle back to more even closer to Castlevania. So I hope this one turns out because Konami seems to not be wanting to make Castlevania anytime soon. So I guess this was coincidentally a little Metroidvania block here, and on top of that, Spirit of the Samurai kind of is a mashup of the last 4 games I talked about. It's a stop-motion Metroidvania game. That said, the stop-motion here is really off-putting in the best, most intentional way possible. Plus, it's coming to Atari VCS, and that's quite the market right there. Viewfinder is a truly mind-boggling video game that appears to defy all logic. It's a first-person puzzle game where you harness the power of photography, and it allows you to manipulate the environment in really astonishing and surreal ways. Its concept brings to mind Superliminal and the rumored early concepts for Portal 2 that were codenamed F-Stop. Viewfinder's baffling mechanics are almost magic, so I really want to check this one out. The Assassin's Creed franchise carries a substantial legacy, and while it may have its flaws, I have a pretty strong affinity for it. The 3 most recent installments, Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, attempted to revitalize the series as a massive open-world RPG that was kind of similar to The Witcher 3, but I thought those were way too big and way too long. So I've always had a fondness for the earlier games, with more stealth-oriented gameplay. And Syndicate is my personal favorite one, the last one they did before they made this big shift. And it appears that Assassin's Creed Mirage is intentionally channeling the spirit of those earlier games. I hope that means that we're going to be treated to a return to the stealth-focused gameplay that I've been missing from the series. Mullet Madjack looks to be delivering a high-octane, fast-paced first-person shooter reminiscent of classic anime. In a market that's saturated by boomer shooters, this game stands out by pushing boundaries visually. I just hope that that's going to be enough to set it apart from all of its other competitors. Helskate combines skateboarding with an action roguelike. It's a unique blend that gives off vibes reminiscent of Tony Hawk and Devil May Cry. And that's no real surprise because one of the lead developers here has experience working on Tony Hawk's Underground. While he may have grown a bit weary of roguelike elements in games, the fluidity of a skateboarding game is more than enough to capture my attention. Here's another one that only qualifies for this list because it was in an Xbox Game Pass montage. Another Crab's Treasure is a colorful underwater Souls-like where you play as a hermit crab. Yeah, that sounds like a unique idea. I'm in. Fortune's Run is another game that ventures into the realm of old-school shooters. This time infusing it with some immersive sim elements and a really captivating-looking grimy aesthetic. And I hope that those things are enough to set this game apart because it really is becoming a fucking flooded market. While my initial reaction to Alan Make 1 was pretty neutral, Remedy's recent major release Control left me with a really great lasting impression. And now with Alan Wake 2 being promoted as their first true survival horror game, its influence from the recent Resident Evil remakes is pretty evident. As a fan of the Resident Evil series, I eagerly anticipate the infusion of its influence into Alan Wake, especially because Remedy is a developer with ample resources, and I really want to see more survival horror from bigger studios. I recently played through Sludge Life 1 and talked about it in my short Weird Games for Weird Busy People video, and I really liked its mellow offbeat vibes. Sludge Life 2 looks to just be more of the same, and I am already sold. I want more. hashtagBlud has incredible animation and a great art style. It looks to be an action RPG in the vein of something like a top-down Zelda game. I really like everything that this game seems to be going for. I just think they should drop the hashtag off the title. It's just like an immediately off-putting impression that it gives you when you hear that a game is called hashtagBlud. Just call the damn game Blood. But, yeah, I think this one looks really neat. Among the abundance of Metroidvania games on this list, Altered Alma stands out to be yet another impressive entry. Its visuals are truly stunning, boasting incredible animation and captivating enemy designs. The star of the show here really though is the meticulously designed environment art. The world really pops. It's remarkable that among the influx of indie Metroidvanias, so many managed to deliver striking visuals, and Altered Alma really is no exception. Sulfur is an FPS action-adventure game with a really great flat art style. I mean, just look at it. You know, I feel like I should just say that for, like, most of these games. Just look at it. Cookie Cutter is a Metroidvania game. Just look at it. Mariachi Legends is a Metroidvania game. Just look at it. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion is one of my favorite games I've played while making videos on this channel. When I talked about it in my 5 obscure games in 1 you know video, I mentioned how I was looking forward to the sequel, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. And that hasn't changed. Just look at it. Developed by some of the minds behind Bulletstorm, Witchfire immediately caught my attention despite all of the things that would normally turn me off for a game being present in Bulletstorm. With its like pretty hokey humor and, you know, just general vibe, the game fucking rocked despite all of that. What sets Witchfire apart though is the developer's seemingly openness to take feedback and discard what doesn't work and reimagine the elements into something fresh. I've heard that Witchfire has undergone significant transformations during development, and the team's willingness to recognize when something isn't working is an incredible strength in a creative realm such as game development. At first glance, Ugly may appear to be yet another Metroidvania game, but it distinguishes itself simply on Steam as a puzzle platformer. With innovative looking mirror mechanics, Ugly I think looks pretty good. I loved the first Ghostrunner. It was a surprisingly great first-person parkour action game, and granted the success of the first game, Ghostrunner 2 looks to be even more of that, just taken up to the next level. A few months ago, Super Dungeon Maker came out and offered an intriguing concept of creating Zelda-like dungeons, but now Questmaster seems to have arrived to eat its lunch. The trailer promises to deliver everything I've longed for in a Zelda Maker experience. With the inclusion of co-op, the prospect of guiding friends through a meticulously crafted, challenging dungeon becomes even more enticing. Questmaster appears to be the ultimate fulfillment of my dungeon creation dreams, offering both creative satisfaction and the joy of shared adventures with friends. Pacific Drive is a game that just barely squeezed its way onto this list. As someone who isn't a car guy, I was initially dismissive towards it. But the customization you can do with your station wagon turned mobile survival bunker looks really neat. The one thing they kept talking about in the interviews during the event was how much they focused on making you personally attached to your vehicle. And as someone who's been loving Tears of the Kingdom and getting attached to personalized vehicles, that strikes a chord with me now. The trailers for the Plucky Squire do an amazing thing, and that's draw you in and sell you on a top-down book game, and then once you're thinking, I'm in, they reveal the prestige that's exiting the book and turning it into a whole different kind of game and a 3D platformer. It's the kind of game that I would expect from Nintendo, but it's super cool to see it coming from a smaller team. Olliefrog Toad Skater is a Tony Hawk homage, and that's enough for me to be interested. But actually pulling that off is way more difficult than it may seem. The feel and flow of a Tony Hawk-like skating game is a make-or-break thing, and Olliefrog seems to have nailed the fundamentals because the demo's out on Steam right now. So many other games have tried to make Tony Hawk-like things, I'm thinking like Skatebird, and just the feel of the game just was not there. And Olliefrog seems to be nailing it where others have stumbled. Also, the striking aesthetic doesn't hurt either. Still Wakes the Deep comes from the Chinese Room, the developers behind Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and Dear Esther. It's a first-person psychological horror game that takes place in 1975 on an oil rig off the coast of Scotland. It looks like it's going to be a gorgeous horror game that possibly plays in the realm of Lovecraft. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Whew, mouthful. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip looks like a little open world game with a great sense of humor. The vibes I get from it are similar to something like The Amazing World of Gumball. Luto is the latest game to do the whole, fine, I guess we'll make PT ourselves thing. And Luto definitely looks to be the most advanced attempt yet visually, at least on a technical level. So I hope that the actual game turns out great. Under the Waves is an adventure game that seems to be super story heavy. It's published by Quantic Dream, so red flag there, I guess. But this one doesn't seem to have much of a David Cage influence on it. Hopefully, I guess. That said, I think this game does have a lot of potential, but it's kind of hard telling when something is so story focused from a trailer. Everdeep Aurora is a Metroidvania game. Just look at it. But for real this time, this one looks super awesome to me. The UI really stands out here, and I love that it does this like 4:3 aspect ratio thing, but it utilizes the space on the sides of the screen for stuff like the map and the inventory, and I think that's a really smart design choice. As somebody who loved Gato Roboto, I really like a kind of 1 or 2 bit aesthetic, and this game really nails that. Can you get the thing to the place? Here's a robust set of tools to help build a machine to accomplish that. That's one of the reasons why I love Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And that's definitely why I'm interested in Mars First Logistics. And the final game I'd like to point out in this video is Laika Age Through Blood. It's a motorcycle Metroidvania game. Just look at it. I hope that I've managed to pique your interest on at least one of these games. If I have, let me know in the comments which ones you're looking forward to now. If you find the view count on this video to be on the lower side, giving this video a thumbs up would be a super helpful way to help my channel out. And also, if you enjoy discovering games that may have slipped under your radar, consider subscribing to the channel. Additionally, wishlisting these games on Steam or your preferred platform would mean the world to the developers. It's just like liking, subscribing, and sharing a YouTube video. It significantly boosts the visibility of the hard work that they put into these projects. Algorithm loves this stuff, as it shows that people are enjoying the stuff people are making. That said, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.